When it comes to the Halloween franchise, everybody always wants to talk about Michael Myers or just the movies themselves. Today, I want to talk to you guys about Laurie Strode, and I want to ask you, which Laurie Strode do you prefer? Hey, what is up, everybody? Nick here, and today I want to talk to you guys about Laurie Strode. Now, what I said in the opening there, you might be thinking, oh, are we talking Scout Taylor Compton versus Jamie Lee Curtis? No, that is not at all what I mean by which Laurie Strode do you prefer. See, I have talked extensively on my channel over the years about the movies, about Michael Myers, about the timelines, all of these things, but I've never really dove into the character of Laurie Strode. And what I mean by that is I haven't asked myself or my audience the question, which Laurie Strode do you prefer? I call this the Laurie Strode dilemma, the Laurie Strode problem. Now, some may not see it as a problem. It really is just a preference, but I want to make the case for each one. Now, what do I mean by all this? Well, there are two different Laurie Strodes. Yes, I'm speaking about Jamie Lee Curtis and Scout Taylor Compton, but it only applies to one of them, and that is Jamie Lee Curtis. See, the two different Laurie Strodes are as follows. There's one that is Michael Myers' sister, and there's one that isn't Michael Myers' sister. And I have struggled with this since Halloween 2018 came out, about which one I prefer, which one I think makes the most sense, which one I feel like is the most palatable. And I feel like as a fan base, we haven't even really talked about this enough. You've seen it in passing, but I don't think it's been as big of a deal as it needs to be, because I think it creates an entirely different atmosphere for the films and the character itself, depending on what route you choose to go with Laurie Strode. First off, let's tackle the sister angle. Now, the sister angle didn't come up until Halloween 2 in 1981. It was not intended in the original Halloween. It was only added during a night of drinking while John Carpenter was writing Halloween 2 because he had realized he felt like he stretched the story out as far as it could go. Why would this guy keep going after this girl? Like, I have to make this make sense. So he made them brother and sister. Now, that would continue with Halloween H2O, Halloween Resurrection, and even the sequels in between there. You would have Laurie's niece, and it would be a familial connection. And that would drive the Halloween franchise for over 30 years. And then, when they came back with the Blumhouse trilogy, we would erase that. And we would say, you know what? No. Laurie Strode was just a babysitter that happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and she fell victim to a masked psychopath. There was no rhyme or reason. And you could look at each version of Laurie Strode, and you could find great things about it. First off, I want to talk about Halloween H2O. Probably Jamie Lee Curtis's best performance in the entire series. She is such a badass in the movie. She plays damage so well. She is everything you could ask for in an Oscar-winning actress in Halloween H2O. And the brother-sister angle, I think, works best in that movie, of all of them, aside from Rob Zombie's Halloween 2. And then you can look at Halloween Resurrection, where although it's just the beginning of the movie, it comes across as corny, and it doesn't really work, and it falls flat. Looking at Halloween 2, 1981, you could say, okay, well, it added something as to why he's still chasing her, but we don't really dig into it much. It's just kind of dropped as a, oh my gosh moment, and then Michael Myers is just back there in the hospital killing people coming after her. There's really no weight to it aside from its initial announcement that that is the case. Then you can look at the Laurie Strode that isn't his sister, and you look at Halloween 2018 Kills and Ends. And in a lot of ways, that was awesome to some fans because it made Michael Myers back to what he was in 1978 and what John Carpenter had intended him to be from his inception. He was a motiveless shape of evil. He happened to come across these teenage girls and just that they were it. Like no other reason than I just want to kill you. Maybe it was Annie yelling at him. I mean, if we're being honest, probably not. But he was just there. They happened to be there. Wrong place, wrong time. It made him a lot scarier to some people when it felt like his actions weren't motivated by anything. There was no vengeance, no score to settle. It was just, he's a predator and you are prey. And that was interesting. And it was something that I was looking forward to when Halloween 2018 came out. But I noticed something. I found myself struggling with that as I'm watching 2018. And as the years have gone on, even more so. Because in 2018 and in Halloween Kills, it is just on the nose over and over and over again that there is no connection, nothing whatsoever. But she has a personal vendetta. He's not the one with the personal vendetta. She wants to settle the score. He truly doesn't care. If you're in his way, he's going to kill you. And it bothered me when that movie came out. And then now that I watch it years later, and again, same thing with Halloween Kills, because I don't feel like Laurie's grief, Laurie's trauma, and maybe this is unfair, is justified enough for the lengths she goes to. If she were his sister, if that connection were there, I would understand it. But when you wiped away everything after the original Halloween, it's been 40 years. A couple friends died, of course, yes, but after 40 years of incarceration, you'd go to these lengths? I just don't know. And I still don't find it all that believable. Everybody processes trauma differently. So this is not me trying to tell you how you should process a certain trauma. But I just don't know if it comes across. I don't know if the writing was strong enough to make it work. Not saying the conceit can't work. I just don't think they sold it to me, personally. And that's why I think I really liked Halloween Ends, among many other reasons, is because she wasn't obsessed anymore. She decided to move on. She learned that, hey, me harboring this hatred and waiting for this guy for decades and decades got me nowhere. It ended me up in the same position I was in. So maybe it's time for me to heal and move on. I dug that. I had such an easier time digesting the character of Laurie Strode in Halloween Ends because that seemed like the Laurie we should have saw in Halloween 2018. Not the Laurie we got in Halloween 2018. Not to say it's not a great performance, because it is. But at times, it's definitely over the top and doesn't feel justified. But, like I said, the conceit itself, on paper to a lot of the fan base, it made a lot of sense. It made us go, you know what? That would kind of return Michael Myers back to what he was initially supposed to be, and I kind of like that. I don't want him to have a motive. We went through so many sequels where the motives just got muddier and muddier to the point where it was like, why are we still watching these? Like Halloween 6. But I think a lot of viewers had just gotten burnout on that plot point. Burnout on the familial ties. That's what I really think happened there. I don't think that it was a bad idea. I don't think it diminished the character, personally. But I feel like we just saw it over and over and over again, and we wanted something new. And we all convinced ourselves that we liked the idea of him being motiveless, having no rhyme or reason. But I just don't feel like in the movies we got with that, it worked as well. Maybe this is bias, and maybe this is me just growing up and looking at them as brother and sister, kind of like how you look at Luke and Vader as father and son. It's just in pop culture. It's what everybody thinks. It's where your brain immediately goes to. But I don't think that that is necessarily a bad thing. Sure, did John Carpenter come to this because he was running out of ideas and out of time and running out of beer? Yeah, sure, probably. But that doesn't mean it was a bad idea. I've had good ideas when I've been drinking before, or at least I've convinced myself while I'm drinking they're good ideas. And I know the argument from some is going to be, but yeah, Nick, it does inherently weaken the character of Michael Myers because it gives him a rhyme and a reason. And without that, he truly is the shape. But with a rhyme and reason, he is no longer just a shape of evil. He is a man on a mission to a specific goal. And I guess you're right. I guess I can't really argue with that, nor will I try to. I guess it's more or less, in my mind, I still view him that way, even if he has a motive, so to speak. I don't think it takes away from him for me. Not saying that it might not inherently take some away from him. But I guess growing up, he was just larger than life for me. He was the boogeyman. I didn't need him to have a reason or not have a reason. He just was who he was. It was what it was. And I don't know, it was ingrained in me to understand that they were related and that Michael Myers, just for whatever reason, wanted to kill his family. And it didn't take away from the character for me. So as I wrestle with this over the years, I really do think I've landed on the fact that I prefer them to be brother and sister. Like I said, both of them have their pros, but they also have their cons. There are weaknesses and there are strengths to each route that you could take. And I think that anybody could make the argument that X was the right route or Y was the right route. And anybody trying to tell you that you're wrong, again, that's just opinion. I don't think anybody's right or wrong here. Although I will grant you the caveat that like I said, I do think maybe it does inherently weaken the character in what he was intended to be originally. But I guess that's just for you to decide. Do you feel like it weakens the character? Because if you don't, Well, isn't that all that matters? Like if it doesn't matter to you, if it doesn't weaken the character for you, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if Jimmy and Susie think it does. These movies are about your experiences, and they're about what you read into it, what you take out of it, how these characters affect you or don't affect you. If it works for you and it takes nothing away from the character and the lore and the story and the movie itself, then that's all that matters. So after 40 plus years now, I can confidently say that I think that the best route for Laurie Strode and Michael Myers was the brother and sister route. Now, that's not to say that I feel like some of the directions the story went in some of those movies were the right ones. No, we got a little long in the tooth there in some movies. I love Halloween 6, but we definitely got a little long in the tooth with the story there. But I think at the beginning, Laurie and Michael being brother and sister was perfect. I actually think it was the Empire Strikes Back moment that John Carpenter had been envisioning, even if he didn't know he was. And I just think it works. And I think that I appreciate that they gave us a new trilogy where it was different. It was choose your own adventure, as Jamie Lee said. But I've chosen my adventure. I chose it when I was a kid. And that adventure was that Laurie Strode and Michael Myers were brother and sister. That's the way it was. That's the way it should be. And that's the way I want it to be. But I want to hear down below what you guys think of the Laurie Strode dilemma. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? Where do you sit with this? Did you decide long ago that Laurie Strode and Michael Myers being brother and sister was the right way to go? Or were you related in Halloween 2018 when they decided to throw that out the window and go forward with him just being a motiveless killer? I want to hear that and more down below in the comments section. So please make sure to leave a like on this video. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm pulling out.